Hi, I'm Sarah Ozel Shore. I am a psychotherapist and clinical trainer, and today I want to address one of the most clinically confusing experiences that a therapist can have. When a client demonstrates insight and it appears real, it feels real, and then it disappears the following week. This distinction is one of the most consequential in our clinical work, and it is one that's least directly taught. Insights and the capacity to integrate insight are not the same thing. A client can genuinely see something, can articulate a pattern, recognize a connection, name something real about their experience, and still not be in a state where that recognition can do anything, where it can reorganize behavior or shift self perception or produce lasting psychological change. What differentiates an insight that consolidates from one that dissolves is not primarily the accuracy of the observation or the depth of the recognition, but it's this: whether the conditions for integration were present in the moment the insight appeared. Specifically, was the client's nervous system sufficiently organized to hold whatever they had just seen? Could they stay with the recognition without becoming overwhelmed or retreating from it? Could they reflect on it rather than simply produce it? Was the insight arising from genuine reflection? Was it a kind of verbal performance of insight, maybe where the right words were spoken, or maybe even the right tone? The client had the right tone, but it didn't have a felt sense underneath it. When integration is not possible, so when the insight the client produces doesn't match the regulatory conditions to hold it, what you observe is a particular clinical pattern. Work that seems productive in session, but resets almost completely between sessions. The client returns the following week, and what felt significant the week prior is either forgotten, dismissed, or present only as an intellectual memory. So the client can say, "Oh, right, I remember we talked about that," but there's no felt weight attached to it. Now, this isn't resistance in the conventional sense. It's not that the client is ambivalent about change. What you're seeing is a state dependent phenomenon. The insight was formed in one regulatory state, and when that state changes, the insight becomes inaccessible. The nervous system, that client's nervous system, the one that produced the insight, is no longer the nervous system that the client is living in during the rest of their week. And so, how do we get insight to integrate? We build regulatory capacity because as the client can expand his or her ability to stay regulated across states, environments, etc., the more accessible different insights are, and the better the client can integrate them. So, regulation is not just about calm, it's not just about window of tolerance. Regulation is the mechanism through which integration happens on a lot of levels. And integration is what creates change. And so, as we think about how we can become more clinically effective as therapists, assessing for regulation in real time is critical. And so The distinction between insights and the capacity to integrate it is one of the pieces that the clinical discernment framework is built to address. And regulation is the first of 6 gates in the clinical discernment framework. If you are interested in becoming more effective in your sessions and assessing your clients to really understand what is possible in any given session, I have a series of webinars coming up that address specifically regulatory capacity and how to assess for it. If that resonates with you, I hope you'll join me. I'm Sarah Ozel Shore, and I'll see you next time.